Hello to everyone who's just joined us. Thank you so much for waiting just a moment there. My name is Daisy Iden and I'm going to be your moderator today. And we're joined by 4 speakers, which is really exciting, to talk about team building exercises that can help you foster creativity and innovation in the workplace. Before I introduce the speakers, it would be great to know who we've got joining us today. So please feel free to start introducing yourself in the chat. You can tell us your name, the organisation or department that you work for, and also where in the world you're dialing in from. So you'll be able to find the chat at the bottom in the window there. If you pull that up and you can start introducing yourself with your name, the department or organisation you work for, and where in the world you're dialing in from. And we'll just give everyone a few moments to get connected because we're expecting a lot of people today. Cool, I can see already a lot of them are coming in faster than I can actually read them. I'm seeing a lot of people from Canada, the UK, as we always have. But I have already seen someone from Brazil, which is exciting, which is where all our speakers are from. So for those of you who have just joined, we're introducing ourselves in the chat, telling each other our names, the department or team that we work for, and where in the world we're dialing in from. You will notice that you've been put on mute automatically, and we ask you to stay on mute throughout the call because we're a lot of people and it would be chaos if everyone was unmuted. So please do make sure that you stay on mute, but you're very welcome to use the chat to talk to each other, share ideas, respond to what the speakers are saying, etc. We will be doing a Q&A as well, so I'll be asking you to put your questions in the chat as we go. So thank you to everyone who's still introducing themselves. Please carry those on. As I said, my name is Daisy Iden. I'm a project manager here at APOLITICAL, and I head up our online events and boot camps in the company. And I'll be moderating today and kind of guiding us along with our speakers that we have. So for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, and if it is your first apolitical event, then please let us know in the chat. We are a global peer-to-peer learning platform for government, and we provide online learning and content to public servants and policymakers across the globe, with new workshops like this one and boot camps offered every week. And more than 70% of the content on the platform is written by public servants like you, and we actively encourage everyone to contribute your own expertise and experiences, and we'll be sharing a link in the chat as well as in a follow-up email tomorrow. That's another important thing to say. We will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow with the recording. Hopefully our speakers will let us share the slides as well, along with any resources that they mentioned. So no need to take furious notes because you'll be getting it all tomorrow. And I can see that we've got quite a few people who are saying it's their first time. So a special hello to you. And yeah, so glad that you've joined us today. So as I said, we've got 4 great speakers who are going to talk to us about how we can use team building exercises and icebreakers to foster creativity and innovation in our workplace and in our teams. So we've partnered with LA-BORA, an innovation and human capital lab in Brazil's Ministry of the Economy today to put on this session. So that's who you're hearing from. As I said, LA-BORA is a learning and innovation environment that aims to develop innovative solutions in people management to improve the public service experience and generate public value. They embrace experimentation and capacity building in order to help people develop their skills. The team also helps other public servants by fostering positive emotions, trust, collaborative relationships, and creativity in the workplace, which I think is going to come across today. So we have 4 speakers, as I said, and as I'm introducing you, it'd be great if you could give everyone a wave so they know who you are. So first up, we have Luana Ferreira, and she is the head and founder of LA-BORA. She is a psychologist by training and specializes in human capital and innovation, as well as employee experience design. And then we have Pedro Stichelli. He is a social policy analyst at LA-BORA. He has a PhD in social anthropology with a master's degree in public policy. In his own word, Pedro tries to do a little bit of everything at work. And when he isn't working, his hobbies include music and photography. Then we have Isabella Blum. She is a social policy analyst at LA-BORA. Isabella is a sociologist with a master's degree in public policy, and she's worked in the public sector for 10 years. And her passions include innovation and social policies. And last but not least, we have Mariela Mesquita. She is a psychologist at LA-BORA. And as well as working at LA-BORA, Mariela is an organizational lie in evidence-based HR and innovation in the public service. So that's who we're hearing from today. And you're going to see it's a very interactive session. So I am now going to hand it over to our 4 speakers who are going to guide you through, like I said, these team building exercises and icebreakers. We're going to hear a presentation and these exercises for around 40 minutes. And then we're going to go into a Q&A. So any questions that come up along the way, please put them in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye out for them and we'll get to them soon. So yeah, I'm going to hand it over now to our speakers.
Thank you, Daisy. Hi, everyone. I'm Luana, and I'm here with part of LA-BORA team, Marília, Pedro, and Isabela. We're all public servants in Brazil. Many people from Brazil here today. I've seen some faces I know. We're so excited to be here. Very happy that you're here. Thank you very much. We've done this workshop 5 or 6 times before, but it's the first time we do it in English with people from so many places in the world. And like Daisy said, LA-BORA is an innovation and human capital lab in Brazil, Ministry of Economy. So how can we use icebreakers to increase engagement, energy, and creativity at our team meetings? This is the question that will guide us today. This was already very important before the pandemic started, right? But now, with all the stress and the absence of in-person interactions, it became even more important. Does anyone know this circle? I believe many of you do. This is the Golden Circle by Simon Sinek, and he claims that if we want people to deeply connect to something, we have got to start with why. So this is where we are going to start. I want to know why. Why do you think team building exercises and icebreakers matter? Why are they important to you? Why are you here? Please put your answers in the chat and I'll give you a few seconds to do it, okay? Isabella, if you can help me out reading some of the answers.
Someone said here that it's good for people engagement. Someone said integration, trust, to help us connect with each other, to get the team to focus. Cool, very nice answers. Connecting, to show people how to make meetings inclusive and fun. Cool, yeah, that's the idea. Also fun is very important. Engagement, get to know people, build trust, safe space for people.
Nice.
Foster connection. That's very good. That's the idea of the workshop, guys.
Yeah, so many words we're going to talk about here. Engagement, building trust, creative environment, connecting with people. We're going to talk about this in this workshop, okay? So here comes our first tip. Always begin with a check-in. We just had our check-in, right? So even if it's a quick meeting or when the group's large like this one, don't skip check-in, guys. And they can be very simple, okay? We'll get back to it with more examples, don't worry. And the same goes for checkouts. It's very important to end meetings with high energy. And we'll show you some options of checkouts too. So let's go back a little for the golden circle. Now that we understand your point of view, let's move on to how. How are we going to meet our goals here? Remember that question about how can we increase engagement and creativity? Well, we want you to experiment some of these icebreakers. But just a note about that, we often use simultaneous or breakout rooms to experiment. But in large groups like this one, how many people are there in the room, Bella? Can you help me? I think I can see.
450 people at the moment.
Wow. So for, I think I shouldn't have asked, like, I'm a little bit nervous now, but for large groups like this one, we can use the chat or Mentimeter or other means to quickly try some activities, okay? So what about what? What do we want? Guys, this is our goal. By using team building activities, we want to foster a trusting environment. You've mentioned it in the chat. We want to foster a trusting environment, which means creating environments of creative confidence. This is a quote, Pedro, can you help? This is a quote by Simon Sinek, and I love it so much. I have it written, I don't know if you can see it. I have it written here in Portuguese, of course, at my desk. A team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of people that trust each other. And trust is something you can build, but first you need to connect with people. The problem is that we usually wear masks at work to cover our feelings, to cover our needs, our pains. Just think about it for a minute. Sometimes you work with a person for many, many years without truly knowing that person, isn't it correct? And if you want to encourage people to remove these masks, you need to promote well-being and to protect psychological safety. But how can we do that? A very simple way is by using team building activities. I'll show you a very simple one. This activity is about asking and answering questions that are very simple, but very deep. Just ask yourself for a moment, do any of your colleagues at work know what your biggest dream is? Do they know what is your worst fear, for example? We have already used this warm-up to prepare the team to make interviews with users because we wanted them to practice empathy, for example. But you can simply use it as an activity to get to know people better in the team. Sometimes you just don't know the person next to you, the person you worked for like 10 years and you just don't know about their lives, right? So this kind of group dynamic helps people to be authentic and to build trust. It's not possible to connect without showing people who you are, even your vulnerabilities. I'll finish by quoting Brené Brown here. Staying vulnerable is a risk we have to take if you want to experience connection. So thank you, everyone, and I'll pass to Marília.
Hello, everyone. So continuing what Luana just said, a first tip, important one, is that this check-in or this icebreaker, it must be adequate to your audience or your team, and it must be related to the meeting or the workshop you're planning. You need to get to know the profile of your audience in order to adapt your icebreaker. Adaptation here is the key point. So prepare yourself first and choose wisely the proper icebreaker. You must know, so depending if you get to know these people a long time ago, or it's the first time, then you must choose wisely. Now, next, I will present you some quick check-ins or icebreakers or warm-ups, which name you prefer, you can use in your meetings. We recommend these quick check-ins for short meetings. So the first one is introduce yourself with a sigh. It seems awkward, but it's just, or simple one. This sometimes helps to get to know how people are feeling, if they are stressed, if they are calm or not. The next one is introduce yourself without saying what you do. It's really rare to present yourself without saying what's your job position, or where do you work, or what you do for a living. So by saying what another thing you do, for example, hobbies, or where do you like to go on the weekends, this helps create a flow as a group and get to know each other. Another quick check-in is the highlights of the week. So, for example, a meeting in the end of the week, you can ask people to say what was their highlight. Or if you are in the start of the week, you can ask for the highlights of the weekend. Thus you can help to get along with each other, save a lot of stress, and get to know what is stressing people, what is stressing your team members. The next one is one that we usually do a lot in our lab, that's introduce your pet or a family member or an object of the house. So you get in touch with your team members, your colleagues. Sometimes, as Luana said, we don't know each other very well, so you have to get along, know the family, or even get to know their pet. So it's a really nice thing to create social bond. The next one is a minute of gratitude. Sometimes we do this as a checkout, not as a check-in, but you can use both for check-in or check-out. You just take a minute to be thankful for something that happened in that week, or you can choose from something that happened at your work that week that you are really thankful. This also can save a lot of stress in the long run. And it helps create also a comfortable space of trust. And finally, why are you here? We did it in this meeting in the beginning, so it's nice to know the expectations of your audience, of your members, so it's a good one. Now, I will pass to a check-in and a warm-up. We do it often in our group, that's temperature. So I want you to point your cell phones to this QR code or to the link I will send you in the chat of the Mentimeter. I want you to answer now. You have 1 minute and I will show you the results, please. This is a really nice warm up. So you get to know how is your team doing, how really, what is the temperature. Pedro, if you, I'll just wait a little bit. Pedro, if you could show, let's see if people start to answer. You can
We're seeing the correct screen, Marilia.
Yes, yes, yes. You can refresh, please. Not yet. I sent you the link. If you can answer, please.
It's funny because it says here 245 people, but it's not really showing you.
Yeah. See, people start to answer.
Do.
Okay. See.
Apparently there was some problem with Mentimeter. It didn't. I don't think it computed the answers. Although there are like almost 300 people answering. That's a shame.
Maybe they're too much.
Yeah. Maybe instead of the Mentimeter then, apparently there was a problem. Maybe if people could put in the chat some of the words.
Yes.
they think.
That's the idea. I can show you the next slide you can use in your. Let's see. Okay, nice. This is a sample of how you can do this warm up. You can use a Mentimeter, or if you have just a small group, you can use Google Slides. There's in this example. This one, you can just place small circles with your initials, so you get to know where people, what's the temperature of your members. So it's really nice. It's a pity we can't show the results, I don't know. But as you can see, you can use this Mentimeter in your meetings. I'm sure it will work with small audience. And so you can get to know what's the mean. Now I'll present finally a quick icebreaker we've done in unit. that's a type of icebreaker for the preparation of a unit's annual strategic plan for 2021. So as you can see, this was a serious meeting, a serious planning, and we used this funny warm-up. So it was really nice. People gave feedback for us that they really enjoyed it. It helped create social bonds and to create a safe space of trust between the members so they could actually plan well the strategic year that in 2021. So thank you. Now, pass to my colleague, Pedro.
Okay, thank you, Marilia. So just quickly, please tell me in the chat, have you ever been through this situation? You're trying to present something, you're trying to get a group to engage, to do the activity, and someone will just look at you like that, like, I will not do it. You might be this girl next to this little kid, like, yeah, I'm full of energy, I want to do this, but you're actually trying to engage this kid here. Let me know in the chat if you've been through this situation, how you've dealt with it, because we would love to hear some tips from you as well. So I'm just going to quickly say something like how we deal with this kind of situation. So it's a little bit difficult, right? So one thing that you can plan ahead is trying to create an environment of trust. I think Luana talked a little bit about it already. So something that can be done is like to make deals beforehand, like to set some ground rules, such as we have here from APOLITICAL. You can try to check needs. Luana and Marilia try to do that in the very beginning, and emotions, all right? So by that temperature checking that Marilia did, you can see if people are very enthusiastic about the event, or if maybe they're there, but they're not really keen to be there. Maybe they have to be there because of work, and you can try to adapt to that kind of situation, right? Of course, you also have to try to customize the activity to the number of people that are going to join, the profile of participants. Like here in APOLITICAL today, we have people from different countries, and we don't really know many of you. And we have a very strong time constraint here as well. We usually do these activities with the larger, for a longer period. And you have to check the intimacy of the participants for when events were in person. In Brazil here, we're still a little bit far from that. You cannot, like, if people don't know each other, you cannot just start an activity and say, okay, just hug the person who is next to you, right? A tip that we usually give, I think a lot of you already think of that, but it's always good to, if you're dealing with larger groups, to divide them in smaller groups. Many of the activities that we do here, we usually divide people from either 2 just pairs or maybe 8 people in a group. Some of the quick check-ins that Luana showed are more about intimacy, so it's nice to do it in pairs. And some are better done in groups of 5 or 6, right? Today, we will not divide this very large group into smaller groups, although we normally work with breakout rooms, either from Zoom or from Microsoft Teams. Be ready to adapt. That's especially when you're working remotely. That's a big rule. Things go wrong. We always make this kind of joke in our laboratory that things will go wrong. They will not like might go wrong. They will go wrong. Like we tested this this Mentimeter that we just showed you like many times with colleagues, and it was working every time. I don't know why now it didn't really work. So we have to be ready to adapt. We asked you to join in the chat and maybe mention there's something, right? And don't be afraid to fail. Like we've just had a little problem and it's fine. It's generally fine. We all colleagues in some sense, right? We all working in the public service here, and we know this kind of things happen, and it's really fine in the end, although we get nervous. So please let me know if you ever heard of this game. It's called Dixit. It's a card game. I believe it's very popular worldwide, but I'm not sure. It's not. We have a picture of it here in Portuguese, but I'm pretty sure it's probably an American game or something. You might have heard of it. Today we're going to do a kind of activity here. We're not going to play the game, but we're just taking some of the cards. So just for those of you who don't know the game, it's a card game that's based on with this. They have this kind of illustrations that are very abstract, very open to interpretation. So we just got the general idea. We're going to use some of these cards that are very well drawn as well, very beautiful cards. And we usually take these cards and do some activities with it. When we're working with smaller groups, we ask questions about the person or about the activity they're going to do. Today we have something a little bit different here. I'm going to project some of the cards here. I'm going to share my screen in a second, but this is the activity we're going to do. Okay, so I want you to answer in the chat. You're going to have to choose a card. I'm going to show some of them, and you have to choose one that represents one challenge of the public sector in either your country or your area, depending on you're working at, and tell us more about it in the chat. So please join us in the chat. I'm gonna leave this screen here shared for a while. So you can either choose, like for instance, choose C, 1D. You just try to work with this axis here. I hope you can do you can see the illustration as well. Let us know in the chat, and I'll ask my colleagues to explore a little bit of the answers in the chat.
That's interesting. I can see many people were saying the letter, which card they are, but yeah, if you could explain a little bit why, like Felipe did. Wendy said like 1I, we're still in lockdown. Yeah, 3D. Leanne said innovation feels like a high wire act.
Oh, sure. Cool.
Yeah, Beth, she said A4, many spiny things that we have to control.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's cool.
Any other answers there? Please, people, let's join the chat. You can also answer to other people's ideas or create your own.
Yeah. Oh, it's going quite fast. Wait. F2, finding our way through political polarization. Oh, I lost it because it's going quite fast in the chat. Many answers.
If anyone wants to open the microphone as well. If anyone wants to open the microphone like quickly, just explain something, you're very welcome to do so.
Yeah, guys, feel free. You can just open the mic and also tell your idea, explain a little bit how you feel about some cards.
Yeah, hi, this is Jessica. I'm actually from Canada, Regina, Saskatchewan to be specific, and I chose I3 just because I find a lot of the issues that we face in Saskatchewan or in public service across our province is that we're trying to solve problems in isolation from each other. And so just those teardrops having different types of product in them is kind of representative of that versus working together. We try to solve these issues in isolation versus it coming all together and solving it across the board.
Well, that's a very cool interpretation of the card. Thank you, Jessica. That's why I love this kind of illustrations with these cards, that they're so open to different interpretations. Anyone else want to open the microphone or just join us in the chat?
Hello, this is Alex from the UK Cabinet Office. So I liked E1 because it's so hard sometimes to see the bigger picture when you're so close into the detail, and that moon is right up in her face. So I'm sure she can't see all of it. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining, Alex. I think you guys are setting this bar very high. Like, it's such cool interpretations of the cards.
This is Susan. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Hi, Jessica. I chose E3. We're incorporating a giant ERP project right now, and we're taking that octopus, the processes, where everybody works in a siloed arm, maybe reports back to the giant head, but maybe doesn't, and trying to make it less octopus-like, but bring it back to the center brain, and that's a hard thing.
Thanks. That's also a very cool choice here. The illustration itself is very beautiful. So I'll have to move on now due to the time constraint, but I think you guys got the general idea, right? So you can either work with this kind of game. So I invite you, if you ever get the chance to play the actual game, it's very fun. It's something else entirely, but you can use the cards. One activity that we've done with the cards is like if you're working with smaller groups, and you can share the cards in the table if you're working in presence, and ask the person to choose a card, for instance. So how do you feel about this project? Choose a card and let us know something about it. Or if you have this cool idea. I think Sandra wants to say something. Sandra, go ahead, please.
Yeah, do we have to worry about copyright, about using these cards or anything?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, we actually have the cards themselves. We took pictures. Since we've done this in person with the actual card game. I'm going to show you all the alternatives as well. So I invite you, if you like the idea, just buy the card game. It's not really expensive. Whenever we're in person, we do that with the actual cards, and we spread them all over the table. In here, we took some pictures just to do it remotely, because in Brazil, We mostly working remotely, at least in our field, so we can still do it. But it's a good question because it leads to my next slide, which is if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't like the idea of these cards, you can do it with something else. Here's a variation of it. So this is a horoscope card, right? I also have, it's a, not horoscope, sorry, it's a tarot card. I actually have the card then here as well, just because I think they're fun. But you can also do something else entirely. You just choose, I don't know, paintings of surreal artists that you like. You can just get some different pictures of paintings on the internet or maybe printed and do the same. So the idea is not the cards themselves, but the idea of the activity that you can do with this kind of illustrations or different examples, okay? So I'll pass the word on to Isabella.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Isabella and I'm gonna do the last presentation. And I'm gonna start with this dynamic that I particularly like a lot, that is called Create Your Startup. And we're gonna do it together. And then I'm gonna quickly talk about another super nice group dynamic that is called I Have the Power. And then I'm gonna wrap up and gonna do a quick checkout with you with Mentimeter. And then the whole team is gonna answer some of your questions, okay? Okay, so the Create Your Startup is an activity that we borrowed the idea from a colleague from the public sector here in Brazil. Then we made some adaptations to our context. And that's a really good group dynamic, especially for fostering creative freedom in groups. And it opens the space for exploring new possibilities and is really good for the ideation phase for people who work with design thinking process. And it can also be used also for teams, by teams that don't use design thinking process necessarily, but as a sort of brainstorm when you have a specific challenge that you want to solve in your area. So usually we separate people in groups and we give the groups 5 minutes to create their startup and 5 minutes to then do their presentation to the whole group. But today we're gonna do it together here, but differently. We're gonna do it individually due to the big size of the group here. And what you're gonna do is this. We're gonna give you 2 minutes for naming your startup and creating the solution it's gonna offer. And we're gonna give you the challenge in the next slide. And then you're gonna have 1 minute to present to the bigger group. We're gonna invite 1 or 2 people to present to the whole group. And also we would love to hear you in the chat. So you can send your ideas in the chat. So next slide, Pedro. The challenge that we have to solve is how to raise productivity and well-being in remote work. So next slide. To answer this challenge, you have to get a figure from the yellow frame and 1 from the second frame, the white frame. So you're gonna match like a number and a letter. And you're gonna create a startup and solve this challenge that I gave you, right? So for example, you're gonna do 1C. And the idea of 1C is like a startup to, I don't know, like a music therapy to increase well-being in times of remote work and relaxation, and people would feel more relaxed, less stressed with all this overload of work and etc. Okay, so we're gonna give you like 1 minute or 2 minutes, 1 minute or 2 minutes, and you can share in the chat. And then we also want some people to share with us, with the whole group. I want to see if someone is going to be brave enough to do it. Oh, we already have Dawn said for dog walking service. If you want to explore it a little bit more and tell us how it would work and how it would raise productivity, how it would like raise well-being or public servants in time of remote work. Leaf shield. Oh, 3D leaf shield. Solutions to protect your face from office plants. That's amazing. D3, adventures in nature to improve well-being. Amazing. 5E, puppy therapy for well-being. Oh my God, I would totally buy your solution, Beth. That's all I'm here for. And that's very good. You know this reality show called Shark Tank? So what you can do is that, for example, in Shark Tank, this reality show, you have like investors and they are sitting there, and then like some people come here and present their idea. They do a pitch, like a
5 minutes, a very quick pitch, and this investors is gonna like invest in some of the ideas. So it's the same idea, but you think about like a decision maker, you have like a secretary, a minister, and then you're gonna present this idea, sell this idea, do a pitch. This is really good, like this dynamic, if you wanna like find a solution for a certain challenge you have in your area, and then you're just gonna have like this ideation process. And yes, then people do their pitch, and then from these pitches you can develop a whole new program for the government. So that's very good for opening people's minds for creativity. Yeah, I'm seeing very nice things here. 3B, cute helmets for babies, solution to people ensure their kids wear and love bike helmets. That's very nice, that's important. Yeah, anyone wanted to share with the microphone in the audio their ideas, and especially like solutions, startups that could help raising productivity and well-being in times of remote work? If you want to talk, you can just open the mic, because to be honest, I cannot see hands raising.
This is Sandra. Oh,
go ahead, Sandra.
Sandra in Winnipeg, Canada. We do some scavenger hunts at my workplace to kind of on a wellness channel we have on Microsoft Teams. And the bike helmet and the plant made me think of doing an outdoor plant scavenger hunt. So to get people out on their breaks to go and find plants and share them on the webpage.
That's really cool. That's a great idea. Maybe someone would invest. Luana, would you invest in this startup?
Totally.
That's cool. Anyone else want to share their startup?
It's Mary Jane from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I had picked 2C, which was finding ways to work across distances, whether those distances be physical, mental, creative, but the idea of the Rubik's Cube of kind of coming together and finding commonality, despite where we might have differences in any kind of view. Just a thought.
That's amazing. That's very cool. That's the spirit. Very nice. Angela, you want to share with us?
Sure, I'd love to. I couldn't resist because I was born in Winnipeg and I was raised in Regina and I live in Edmonton, and I couldn't resist making that connection between all of us. So mine I chose was 3A, and I said, laugh safe, a company designed to support the most physical of laughers. Don't shrink your joy, protect it. And I'm a loud and physical laughter, so it's really just for me.
Amazing. Amazing. I would totally invest. Okay, we're going to call one last person, Larissa, because then we have to move forward. So Larissa, want to share with us?
Hi there. I'm calling in from Maryland, the United States, and mine is 5D, and the name of the company is Leave It Alone, and it's to encourage people to leave their desk or their desk time and zoom into another place where they get to do plants at their home. So you get sent a plant to your house, or like the components of the plant, and you can plant them with other people. So it's still using Zoom, so that's why the computer is there, but it's Leave It Alone.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Very nice. Very cool, guys. You're very creative. Congratulations. That was amazing. Even doing it individually and with restricted time, it was fantastic. Really love it. Okay, so next slide. In the next slide, we have an alternative form to do it, a variation that is create your startup using Dixit cards. Again, as you can see, we're really big fans of Dixit. So you can use this too, like to adapt the dynamic. If you want to create startups, for example, let's say you can give one of these cards to the group, and people have like, okay, 5 minutes to do a startup using this card, based on this card. Or you can tell people you have a challenge and they choose one of these 10 cards, and this one of these 10 cards is going to base their solution for a specific problem. So yeah, that's a variation, and you adapt to your situation depending on the size of your group, depending on the purpose of the meeting. Okay, and okay, next one. I'm going to just quickly talk about this group dynamic that I really like too, and it has a different purpose from the startup that is called I Have the Power. And we won't do it together now because of the time, but I'm going to explain very quickly how it works. So people have to create their superhero, and they have to answer. They're going to say the name of this hero, and they're going to say what are their superpowers and what are their kryptonites. And by superpowers, people have to think about what are their strengths, you know, something that they like about themselves, something that they feel they are good at, and what is their kryptonite. So things that they have to improve on, like competencies that people feel they have to work on and they need to improve. So that's quite like a good activity for more intimate or reflexive moments. And it's also fun. It's also good for creating a more relaxed environment. And maybe it's good also to know each other. Oh, I see some people are already sharing in the chat. That's very good. That's a nice, we like to use this dynamic, especially for groups that we want people to feel relaxed and know each other, know their strengths at the same time, like I talk a little bit about their weaknesses in an open way, in a very chill way. So yeah, so that's it. I was here to present you these two activities that we use a lot in our lab, and we really like them. They usually have really nice outcomes. We're always very impressed with the participation of the public. And now we're gonna show you the checkout with Mentimeter. We're gonna send you the link in the chat. And Pedro, if you could share the screen again, so people can use the QR code. And we're also gonna send the link, and we're gonna have some sort of word cloud. Did the chat work? Okay, wait, I'm sending you here. What we want you to do, we want you to share in this link 1 or 2 words about what do you take with you from these events, and or how you're feeling about this, what did you learn, like what do you take with you with 1 or 2 words. And then Pedro is gonna do, oh, the presentation is no longer active. Yeah. See, that's so weird that we're having these problems with Mentimeter.
Yeah, we just tested like a minute ago. So let's adapt. Let's adapt. Instead of Mentimeter, just put it in the chat then, please.
Just put it in the chat, guys, please. We would like to hear from you. Yeah, but just share in the chat if you liked it, what you take it with you from these events, what you learned, how you feel. Be honest. We make mistakes. We are here to learn. We're here to improve and make it better next time.
The Mentimeter is working, I think. No?
Can you try, Marina? Maybe you can, yes. You can share the screen.
Wait.
Marilia is gonna try to do it. Maybe it's some problem with Pedro's account or something. Energized and ideas. Encouraged.
Yeah, can you see?
Yeah, it's actually working for you. Yeah, I think the problem was just me.
It's you, Pedro. It's personal. Mentimeter doesn't like you.
Lot of.
Actually, I cannot see the. Can you see, guys, the projection? Oh, I can see now. I can see now.
There's so many words, but I think fun, ideas, inspired.
Awesome, great. Oh,
really,
you're making us very spoiled now. You know, we're feeling very happy to see these words.
Awesome, Dixit. Oh, awesome. People like it.
Dixit, yeah, it appeared many times. I guess
we're not really paid for by the company that makes Dixit. Okay, we just like the illustration.
Maybe we should be paid by them because we always talk about it. I'm sure the selling like will increase now, right? Love the ideas. Okay,
very nice.
Awesome Dixit ideas, fun, inspired, creative, grateful, energized. That's very cool, guys. Thanks so much for your participation. It was lovely. It was very nice. We participated a lot. And now maybe we're gonna go back to Daisy because we're gonna have some time to answer the questions.
Thank you so much to all of you. You can already see from the word cloud that people are really loving it, and you're getting a lot of love in the chat as well. And I agree, big energy, and yeah, I was smiling the whole way through. So I think if you can bring this to your icebreakers, then hopefully the rest of your team should also want to get involved as well. So we do have 15 minutes left, and we're going to try and get to some questions that you guys submitted in advance of the workshop, but we'll also be taking questions in the chat as well. So if you have questions, then please do share them with us. One of the first questions I wanted to ask was for Luana, and this came in earlier from Larissa when you were speaking about the check-ins. So her question was, how do we avoid cursory check-ins? Oh, I'm just going to put, thanks. The question again was, how do we avoid cursory check-ins where everyone just says fine or are silent? And how do we avoid the other extreme where in-depth discussions from every participant take over the entire session? So Luana, how to kind of manage the check-in question?
Sorry, Daisy, I didn't hear the first question, the first part of the question. I'm sorry, can you repeat?
So it's how do we avoid cursory check-ins when everyone just says they're fine or they are silent?
Okay, thank you. Well, first you need to always say what you want, what you expect, and give people the time. Make people have to know what your goal is in the check-in. So like Marilia said, it has to do with the meeting. For example, when we ask people, what is the cat that represents how you feel today, how you feel in 2021, we were talking about planning the 2021, the plan of the I'm sorry, the organization plan, sorry. So people knew what we expected from them. So you have to do it. And you have to say, people, you have like 1 minute and encourage people, but you can't force people. People were talking about this in the chat a lot, like, how do you engage people without forcing them to participate? You have to make deals. And if someone doesn't want to participate, that's okay. Maybe if the person is in the room, and it's a high energy meeting, and it's a high energy icebreaker, next time this person will get involved. So be patient and know the feelings, and make room for people to disagree, build the trust within the team, and with time, we'll get to our goals. It's not in the first time. It's not going to work at the first time you do it, maybe the second, maybe the third.
Yeah, I like that. So be patient with people, and also it's supposed to be fun. So we don't want to make anyone.
I think your connection dropped for a second, Daisy.
Can you guys hear me and see me?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it was just in the middle of the sentence. I didn't get a few words.
Okay. I think I'm having some connectivity problems. So please, tell me if I drop out. But for now, hopefully you can still hear me. We did have a question which follows on quite nicely from that question. And it was from Mark about the activity for superpowers and weaknesses. And he says, isn't this the sort of activity that should be reserved for when psychological safety and trust is established? And I was wondering, Isabella, if you could talk to how do you build psychological safety and how do you build trust in the first place?
Yeah, for sure. I have the power activity. You have to know the audience, right? Like Marilia said many times, you have to know the public you're talking to. So maybe if you are not in a safe environment, if it's like, or if you have like a hierarchies and things like that, maybe it's not the best dynamic to use, right? So you have to know the situation, the circumstance, if you have enough trust, so people can share about characteristics like their kryptonites, what they want to improve and what are their strengths. But at the same time, you just develop this trust if you do it, right? So maybe opening this space, like Luana said, for sharing your vulnerabilities is how you raise trust, because everybody's going to do it. Everybody is going to be sharing what are their vulnerabilities, but at the same time, they're going to be talking about their strengths, and people will be also saying, yeah, that's your strength, you're really good at it. So that's how you raise trust. You just raise trust by doing it, by exposing everybody, sharing their vulnerabilities. But of course, it has a right time to do it and a right group to do it. You don't do it like if you were in a meeting with secretaries and the ministers, for example, to talk about the approval of a bill or something like that. But it's very good for a more intimate circumstance, probably like among your own team. And then you want to have a time to build this trust and to get to know each other better.
Great. I've seen another question come in on the chat, and it kind of ties in with people being reluctant to do the activities. But this one isn't so much about people feeling uncomfortable. It's more that people might feel like they are a waste of time or not worth doing. What can you say to people who say, oh, come on, let's just get started. We don't need to be doing this. Maybe Pedro can give an answer on that one.
Yeah, sure. I think it's also related to other questions that are here in the chat. I was trying to go through them. So we did show a little bit of the things we try to do to create a more comfortable environment. Like if you set some ground rules, if the person already kind of knows what to expect. As you've seen, we try to do things in a lighter way, in a kind of a fun way. So even if you're dealing with something that is very stressful or a very serious project in many senses, it doesn't mean you have to be very bureaucratic in the bad sense, like all the time. You can start with a lighter activity like this. So you probably will put people in this mindset that you're expecting already. You can discuss, I don't know, a very serious budget issue in a group, but start with something a little bit lighter. Maybe if you show some illustrations like we did with Dixit, or you with something else, and like if you were to define this problem that we have here today, like one of these pictures here, how would you describe it? So it's a serious issue. It doesn't mean it's like you're joking about it, but maybe people will get in the more participative feeling or sense. Someone also asked about like if the person doesn't want to participate or is negative most of the time. Some of these icebreakers really help. I'd like to bring an example of something that happened with us. Once that we were doing this kind of I have the power activity that Isabella showed you guys, there was this one colleague from the Brazilian government that kind of didn't want to participate in the beginning. The people were supposed, it was a smaller group, so people could show something. So we asked people to show what's your superpower to project something, and he just showed a blank sheet of paper, and everybody thought, okay, this guy just doesn't want to participate or something. But then later he felt comfortable to explain that he was the invisible man in a sense, because he's the kind of person that doesn't really want to appear all the time in the video or doesn't speak out like very often, but he's the person who's doing a lot of work in the background. So he feels a little bit like the invisible man. So he didn't want to participate at first, but he turned that into something very positive and actually fun answer to the activity that we proposed. And it's one of the cool examples that we have of that activity.
Yeah, I think that's really important to stress that they're not just fun, they can also be useful and serve a purpose as well. And that might be a good way to get skeptics on board. I can see in the chat we've had a comment from Philip, and he says that we really need to educate senior managers on the importance of fun activities to build team morale. And he said sometimes there might be a perception that people who promote these kind of activities are less interested in real work. Marilia, I was wondering if you could speak about how you might convince your manager that this is something you should be doing in your team.
Well, I think people, sometimes you need to show data. Sometimes managers work with data. You can show them past feedbacks on other meetings you have done or workshops. You can show them how was the feedback of your audience. They felt great. You created social connectedness. You created social bonds. And then you can argue that this is important. So I think sometimes for managers, you need to show what is the real thing, to show proofs, because that's sometimes how managers work. So if you show them, they will feel more confident to use this kind of fun activities, warm-ups or icebreakers in their meetings also, and to understand that it's not just for fun, but they are important to create a safe space and to create social bond between members.
Thanks for your answer. And I can see as well a lot of people in the chat agreeing with Philip on this point of kind of emotional labor, which is often downplayed and not valued as it should be. So we are rapidly coming towards the end of the hour, and I wanted to pose one last question, and any of you feel free to give your answer here. Obviously, as we're still kind of going through the pandemic, a lot of people might be working in hybrid teams where some people have gone back to the office, but some people are still working from home. Do you have tips for adapting these kind of activities so you can do it with hybrid teams, so people won't be in the office, but how to include people who might be at home? And any of you can jump in.
Well, I can start. You can blend these activities. For example, when we do I have the power one, you can do it remotely and ask people to use the analogic thing, the paper, for example, to draw something, to take the picture, to put in the chat, so people can join even remote meetings. So you can blend it. We have done this before, pointing the cameras for what we're doing. And it's not a big issue for small groups, but for large groups, then you really have to think and adapt. One thing that is very important is to, like what we did before this meeting, is to train it a lot, to pass it over, to talk to the colleagues. We invited people. So if you do this, yeah, you diminish the errors. But something always goes wrong, so don't worry. And it's just a matter of adaptation.
Yeah, a very cool tool that we use, I don't know if you know, I sent in the chat, it's Miro.com. To be honest, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but that's how we would say in Portuguese. But this website is quite cool, and they have like many frames, they have templates, and we use it a lot, you know, like you can do many of the things that you do in person, you can do using Miro, you know, so you separate the frames, so each person has their frame and then they have to present to each other. So that's a good tool. Definitely, it's a nice website for remote work and to do like a collaboration in terms of remote work.
Awesome. Well, as I said, we are almost at the end, so it's time to wrap up. I want to say a huge thank you to our 4 facilitators. I've really enjoyed the session, and I know that there are some things that I'm going to take back to my own team and suggest that we start doing. So that's exciting as well. And I'm sure lots of people on the call will be introducing these things as well. As I said, we are going to send out a follow-up email, so you can look out for that tomorrow, and we will send links to LA-BORA's website as well as the presentation slides. So yeah, thanks once again, everybody, for coming, and thank you, of course, to our speakers. If you want to come off mute and say goodbye, have a good rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are. Yeah, it was great to have you guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thank you.
That was so
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.